Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you are watching this on a recording and couldn't make it today, we still appreciate your support. Thank you for everyone that donated for today's event. It is greatly appreciated. I am Gwen Washington. I'm the founder of Leila Grace Foundation. Leila Grace was started over a decade ago. It's kind of crazy that it's been that long. Probably 15 years. Gosh, I'm dating myself. This is getting up there here. But it started unfortunately because I was assaulted in college as a freshman in New York. And at that time, there was no Me Too. There was just nothing. You couldn't even say the word rape publicly. And I was very grateful that I ended up talking to the press in that town because the school did not want me to talk about what had happened. Um, I had graduated, moved on to grad school, and wanted to come back and just talk about the issue of sexual assault. And they were just like, yeah, just can't do it here. And I was like, but it happened here. And they're just like, can't do it here. So that kind of inspired me where, in terms of free speech, you should be able to say whatever you want to
Mhm.
say. They knew that it happened there. There was a police report. So it was more like about the PR of the school. And I ended up becoming a RAIN speaker that way because they were like, if you could come under another organization, we could do that. You just can't say that you were assaulted here. And I was just like, no, I don't want that. And then ended up talking to the press because at the time there was nothing else to do. There
Mhm.
were no other options. And through that, they were like, okay, we'll make one phone call. They made a phone call and they were like, you can talk as much as you want. So out of that pain, I decided it's much better to take something painful and do something positive.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the reason why the organization was created. Long time ago, my board members thought I was crazy, or I was like, everything's going to be digitalized. You're not going to need an office. You're not going to do all this stuff in person. There's like, why would we do that? um, I was foreseeing COVID. But for the first few years, we did do things in person and did, fundraisers in person and such like that. I was able to speak in different colleges and was really appreciated for all the support that I was given. We did a movie that was actually based on another survivor. It was a documentary that premiered at a local college in Chicago. Um,
Mhm.
we did not sell the rights to the movie because it was actually used for her case. She actually was able to prosecute her attacker. So that was something that I still hold very close to my heart because I still talk to that survivor and very close to her. Um, and so now I'm trying to kind of revitalize the organization and really focus more on the online presence, which is a little difficult because of the fact that we can't say certain words anymore publicly, especially on Instagram and everywhere else. So I always made it a mission that the organization would close when no one else was assaulted. And I thought that would happen during COVID. And unfortunately, it was the reverse, where I was like, no one's going to email us. And unfortunately, there were many more people who wanted to share their stories. So for the oncoming part of the year, we're going to be starting a new podcast with a new survivor who's going to be doing it on her own virtually. And we're really excited about that. I can't really talk more about it until she actually starts next month. But yeah, that's just kind of an overview of the organization. I think it's important. People know long time ago where kind of, things were of a particular age were not the same as they are today. Um,
Mhm.
but it's enough about me, enough about the organization. I would like to get to know more about each of the speakers today and, what is important about survivors speaking out and what does it mean for you, as well as a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you're an advocate to this cause. So, Mary Dominguez, I would love to hear about you.
Okay. Hi. I'm so glad to be here. So the reason why I got involved with survivors is not from a personal experience. I'm not a survivor, but I have a family member who is. And so that's really what drove me to want to volunteer with the organization that I'm with, which is the Center for Empowerment. Now, I'm not representing them.
Okay.
They told me I have to say that. So um, I'm just speaking from basically knowing someone who went through a horrible experience and wanting to advocate for others that are in a similar position or were in a similar position. So that's kind of where I'm coming from as far as survivors. I also studied psychology. So sometimes what happens is this is an area where the way people think and how it affects their behavior, it's part of all of this. So I use that knowledge in my advocacy and in my activism for survivors. Like the way I speak to them, the way I connect with them, how I serve them, is very specific. So I combine my psych knowledge with the training that I received. I'm also a crisis counselor. So
Mhm.
as a result, when things are like, I
Yeah.
can bring everything down to the right temperature so that we can talk and figure out what the next step is.
Right.
So it's so funny because I had like a whole presentation. And then when I saw your email, I'm like, okay, she said 5 to 10 minutes, Mary. You got to cut some stuff out. So what I did was I basically wanted to talk about the resilience piece of it, how survivors like bounce back from the experience that they went through. So resilience actually plays a really big role in how a person heals
Mhm.
after the fact. So looking at, and I have notes, that's why I'm looking down.
Sorry.
Um, so basically, resilience is recovering from some type of adversity or trauma, a significant adversity or trauma. And what happens next depends on a few things. So you have something like emotional strength, you have your support systems, and then you have to be able to regain that sense of safety and well-being because it's gone
Yeah.
after those experiences. That it's like you don't know who you are almost. It was taken from you in that moment. Your concept of safety totally destroyed after that,
Yeah.
and I'm very sensitive to those things. So emotional strength, things like fear, shame, guilt, they have to be reframed because those feelings are now warped for you. So you have to regulate them all over again. So
Yeah.
your emotional strength is very important in that capacity. Seeking support. Who's in your support system? Friends, family, a therapist. If you're a religious person, it could be a pastor or a minister. It's somebody to talk to because what happens is you isolate. And isolating in the beginning is not necessarily bad,
Right.
because you might be thinking or gathering or learning something about yourself, or self-care is happening, which is fine, but you don't want to stay isolated. You need that connection
Yeah.
to rediscover yourself. And like I said earlier, the concept of safety. Well, who's safe now? What's safe now? um Also, I like what you said about turning your pain into something positive. You can also say turning your pain into a passion or turning your pain into purpose. That's another reason why some people do exactly what you did, Gwen, is go into advocacy and activism because that happened to you. Had that not happened to you, you may not even think about advocating for survivors,
Yeah.
but because of that experience, now it's like, well, wait a second, I know what this feels like. I want to help somebody else who experiences this or perhaps even worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, um, some factors that might influence how you bounce back. some personal experiences. Like, for example, do you have any childhood trauma or existing mental health things going on? You know, how does that play a role in your ability to come back to yourself? Social support, any cultural or spiritual beliefs can help play a role. Your access to care, mental health care specifically, um, therapy, counseling, anything like that. And then the big one is self-efficacy. And if we had an audience here, I would probably stop and say, does anybody know what self-efficacy really is? It's your own belief in whether or not you can recover and heal. That's very important. And a lot of people lose that because of the experience. And that can be really tough. I'm almost done.
It's okay. You're fine. This is your time.
Uh, some challenges to whether or not the resilience is strong would be the stigmas that are out there, the blame, and that comes from society and it could also come from inside the house. Like, for example, friends and family. And it doesn't have to be intentional. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be intentional, but it's still there. And the fear is that you can be re-traumatized.
Yeah.
So whether it's, I'm sorry, my nose is running.
It's okay.
Okay, so a lot of the blame can come from society, and that really angers me
Yeah.
because I feel like we should be past that, and we're not.
No.
We're not past that. There's long-term effects that you may have to battle: PTSD, depression, anxiety, those panic attacks that happen out of the blue. These are things that stay with you, but they can also block you being able to be resilient at the same time. So how do we build resilience? I always like to start with therapy. That's probably because of my background.
Yeah.
Um, Everybody should have at least one person that they can talk to. It's always nice when that one person happens to be a therapist or a counselor. That's always, that's good. Peer support groups, survivor networks, like where I volunteer currently, local sources. Start locally. In your case, you tried to speak where it happened and they blocked you. So sometimes you got to go deeper or further in order to get the help that you need. Mindfulness, self-compassion, this all goes into the healing process, but it also focuses on self-care. Take care of yourself, please. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, it wasn't your fault. That's true. What happened to you is not your fault. I don't want to say but, I'm going to say and. Your body, your boundaries, the narrative around the experience, all of that stuff together, you got to be able to look in the mirror and say, okay, that happened. No, it wasn't my fault. But who am I now? What can I do now? And that's very important. Some survivors do exactly what you're doing. They turn around and say, okay, this happened. I need to get into some type of advocacy or activism to help other survivors because this happened to me. Um, so last but not least, I'm going to read only because I like the way I wrote this. Um, Resilience doesn't mean the trauma didn't hurt or that someone has moved on. It means that despite the trauma, survivors can build meaningful, fulfilling lives, often with insight, empathy, and strength, even though there's pain there. So it's not a fixed trait. Resilience is not a fixed thing. It's something that can be nurtured and developed over time.
I like that. That's like a perfect, I would say, explanation of resilience. Um,
Yeah.
just because I was a therapist for a long time before I went
Oh,
to education.
okay.
So that I started the organization while I was finishing my graduate degree.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm really into the mind-body connection, and I also
Yes.
feel like uh, any kind of trauma holds to the body. So your body changes as we get older.
Hmm.
I always make a joke that we'll end up like little raisins eventually. So, like, no matter who you are, you're gonna become a raisin. Like that's what's gonna happen. So, but sometimes that trauma is like a scar. It doesn't it's still there. It's just,
Hmm.
becomes from that wound stage into a scar, and that scar may even flatten out or not be as deep. But like when you look down, you're always going to be reminded of that scar.
Yes,
There's
right.
no way to take it out of you, but it becomes a part of you, but it's not all of you.
Hmm.
So therefore, if you take it out, then you're not you. So you kind of in a weird way, I don't want to say the word need, but it just meshes into your identity. But it's not your complete identity.
Hmm.
I think your explanation of resilience is like perfectly spot on. Because it becomes a part of you. You can't change it in a weird sense. You don't want to change it because,
Hmm.
would be a completely different person and maybe you wouldn't
Yeah.
be as interesting or passionate about, empathetic towards other people. But
Hmm.
thank you so much, Mary.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Jennifer, hi.
Hi. Hi, Gwen and Mary.
Hi.
Mary, that was excellent. Thank you
Oh,
so much
thank you.
for going through that. Very touching and so necessary that women need to have that voice and needs to feel like they are heard, right? And
Hmm.
that just creates that space for that. And Gwen, thank you so much for creating this space
Thank you.
for
Yeah.
conversations like this because it doesn't always exist, right? People
Hmm.
don't really talk about things like this. It's kind of taboo
Yeah,
and it's a very easily kept secret, right? Because
Hmm.
of the wounds. People don't like to really show their scars
yeah,
because there's a little bit of shame on that. And
Hmm.
but talking about it is part of the healing, and
Yeah.
being heard is also part of the healing process as well. So thank you so much for creating this space again, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. Um, because what survivors experience is not just a moment. It's a interruption of their safety, right? Interruption of their identity
Hmm.
and an interruption of their trust.
yeah,
So they have to rebuild all over again at all of those points. After trauma, people don't just move on. People they often have to rebuild. They have to figure out, how do I trust again? How do I
Yeah.
love again, right? How do I love myself for allowing this to happen? Oftentimes women blame themselves. Did I look a certain way? Did I say something that attracted this? Why did this happen to me? So understanding who you are as a person and start to learn yourself and love yourself and know that this is not your fault. It's something that you have to rebuild, and it doesn't happen overnight.
yeah,
That safety is gone. Those guard rails that we have up that we don't know that we have, but once we've been violated, they're down. And so we have to figure out how to put that back together again. So finding our
Hmm.
sense of safety and control. Feel like our
Hmm.
life is out of control, right? Because this happened and how could this be? And figuring out how to find that control back, that sense of control back is real work that requires getting to know yourself again, getting to be comfortable with your new life because your new life now has that scar, and
Hmm.
it's okay. You survived it, right? You're living through it, and so we have to figure out how to process it. Some people don't speak about this trauma. It's difficult. Some people speak immediately about it, like you, Gwen. You were able to speak immediately about it, but you're extremely brave. Some people will hold that in for their entire life, and no one will ever know that they
Hmm.
experienced it, right? And sometimes it takes time for people to speak, feel comfortable speaking. That it can take years, 20, 30 years. That scar still's not, it didn't go away, right? Just because it was 30 years ago does not mean it didn't happen and that I'm not reminded every day of something like this, right? So, but some people just never speak at all. And that doesn't make their experience not valid.
Yeah.
They still experience this. And so just because they're silent about it does not take away anything. It just means that they're processing it differently and they don't want to, don't want to speak about it.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful not to measure healing with visibility.
Yeah.
Just because you are visible doesn't mean that you've healed, or
Right.
just
Right.
in the opposite as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of emphasis on speaking out, and it
Yeah.
is powerful. But let's be clear about it. Speaking is a choice. It's not an obligation. It's a choice that it's
Hmm.
up to the individual if they want to speak. If not, then figure out how to regain their power. So some people use their voices to reclaim their power.
Hmm.
Some people don't. Some people like their privacy to process their peace. And so we just have to respect that. And both of those are valid. It just depends on the individual. And what really matters most is that survivors regain agency, the ability to choose what happens to their story next, what
Hmm.
happens to
Hmm.
what's their new normal now.
Yeah.
So choose agents, regain your control, regain your self-confidence, your self-love, because that trauma took away some of that control. Try to figure out how to heal and regain back that control of yourself and have self-agency. And I mean, those of us who are advocates, I'm an advocate, I'm a supporter, and some of those who just care about those people who have been in victims.
Yeah.
Our role is not to fix. It's really we're really here to listen without judgment.
Hmm.
We're here to believe them, believe their story without interrogating them, and we're here to support them without trying to control them. One of the most harmful things we can do unintentionally as a supporter, as an advocate, is recreate powerlessness by telling someone what they should do. Instead, we should
Hmm.
ask, what
Hmm.
do you need right now?
Hmm.
How can I support you? And and they and understand and respect their answer. It may not be what you want to hear.
Hmm.
Mary, you talked a lot about resiliency, which is awesome. That's the key, just being resilient. That's something that we wear. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that we have to learn. It is a learned behavior.
Hmm.
And but I wanted to make sure that people know that resilience is not necessarily pretending that you don't feel hurt, right?
Hmm.
You don't that it's not pretending that that scar never existed and that you're just, oh, I'm better now. That's not necessarily resilience, right?
Hmm.
Or showing up and pretending or appearing to be strong on the outside. That's not resilience. What resilience is choosing to keep going, even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's allowing yourself
Hmm.
to process what happened and ask the questions that's needed to yourself. Where am I at now? Why did this happen to me? It's okay to ask those questions. And how do I rebuild from now? And resilience is rebuilding it at your own pace.
Mhm.
Everyone heals differently. Everyone moves
Hmm.
differently. Everyone rebuilds differently. And it's quiet, it's personal, and it deserves respect. So in closing, I wanted to leave you guys with this. Every survivor deserves to be heard, to be believed, and to heal on their own time. And every person in every space has the ability to contribute to that. And they contribute to that through advocacy, through support, or simply just showing up for someone. So this work really matters. Gwen, what you're doing really matters.
Yeah.
These conversations matter, and the people behind them matters most. Thank you guys. I appreciate you listening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
You made a lot of amazing points. One
Hmm.
of the points that like really sticks with me is you said, there's some survivors who are able to be visible or want to be visible. in their healing or just being able to speak out, whether it's publicly or even just telling your own friends and family. I mean, that takes a lot of
Hmm.
courage. And then, like you said, there are a lot of survivors who don't want their stories public or don't want that path. We do have, I love how my computer keeps going on. We do have, trying to get this off the way. We do have survivors who send us emails, and sometimes it's just their stories, and sometimes it's just literally one word, like happened to me. And a lot of times they don't want it shared. So I always wanted to create a digital space where people, if they wanted to share their information, then people can send us blogs, which they do every month. And those people who want that up on the website can are we put it up. People who want to be on a podcast can do that. People who don't want anything can still send us information. Um,
Hmm.
so I think it's very important that you mentioned that because a lot of times we don't think about people who just that's not their path and that's not their way of
Yeah.
processing or healing, and that's okay too. Um,
Hmm.
and even for people that are visible. I mean, I think I've been visible in this issue for a long time, that I had to make a choice when I was really young that I would use my full name and like not hide my identity. And I didn't even think about how that would affect my life moving forward. So dating,
Hmm.
having to have that conversation very early on, because I'm like, what if somebody like Googles my name and finds this out later?
Yeah.
But it served its purpose in that sense because then I was able to you know, gauge, do I want to even be in this relationship with someone depending on their reaction to what they found out or what I told them.
Hmm.
And that was just the way that I was able to use that. But again, I wasn't thinking about, okay, if I'm visible 15 years ago, how's that going to affect my life 10 years from that, 20 years from that, 50 years from now? I don't know. So,
Hmm.
or even children, how do you tell your children if you are a visible person? So, oftentimes I think about there was a case recently, I think in France, where a woman came out that her husband was assaulting her in her sleep. And it kind of changed the laws in France recently. But this had been going on for like 50 years, like pretty much most of her marriage or back in the day. Um, and it basically allowed other people to say, like, hey, this was happening to me too. But now she's the face of that movement. So she's an older woman, but like, I don't know how she would feel comfortable being the face of something. Like we never think about that either. Um,
Hmm.
and there are times myself or other people who are visible don't want to be visible, and I don't want to talk about it and I don't want to think about it. So I think it changes as you go through life, where there are times where you feel more passionate um, to be more vocal and more, I guess, public in terms of advocacy as a survivor. And there are times where you're like, no, I need to do stuff behind the scenes. I need to take a step back for my own self-care and things of that nature, because just you're going to go through different emotions as you get older, and other things are going to affect you, whether um, just waking up one day on Instagram and seeing how like you can't say certain words changed how I was like, how are we going to do this now? And I never thought that that was
Hmm.
an issue. Um, so as the world moves forward, I hoped that, it'd be easier to talk about these things publicly. But what concerns me a little bit is how I feel like we're kind of regressing back to the time when I first started. And I'm like, no, I thought I would be able to have like a billboard out with just the word of sexual assault, like Awareness Month. Like somebody put it up, even if it's not me, I don't care.
Hmm.
And that's not happening. And that's really, it makes me sad. And I don't really know why. Like I don't even have an answer to that on why that's coming, at least in America, where it feels like people are kind of regressing with their emotions, um, and almost like feeling like we have to go back underground. And like you were mentioning, Mary, about being taboo, like it almost feels like we're back
Hmm.
years ago, even more.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to ask you both, like, how do you see kind of the future of advocacy now, especially in America, because of just, you know, a lot of what we're talking about, a lot of people aren't talking about publicly. I can't remember the last time I had a conversation with somebody just walking, in a room about this. Um, yeah. So kind of like, what do you see the future of advocacy in terms of sexual assault or survivors, but mainly that topic?
Hmm. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I just like what the
No, the question is good. The question is valid. The reason why I say I don't know is because once upon a time, I would have a different answer. My answer would be more positive.
Okay.
It's not positive now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the society that we live in is very misogynist. And so what happens is we get diminished almost.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what was she wearing? Did she have anything to drink? Oh,
Yeah.
you tempted me. And then don't get me started on consent because oh, she looked old enough. Like,
Yeah.
come on, people. Like stop. Are you gonna tell me every survivor is lying? You understand what I'm saying? It's the society that we live in, and I feel like the society might have been improving.
Yeah.
It's not now. So
Yeah.
now I'm concerned actually. I'm
Yeah.
troubled.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I think more now than ever, I think the digital space has to be the key to what. So
Mhm.
you were spot on, Gwen, when you said we're going to go digitalize.
Yeah.
If the whole world is digital.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole world. And I think
Mhm.
the advocacy has to be just loud and clear and on people's timeline, on the FYP page, on and when people are scrolling, there needs to be some
Mhm.
voices out there, some videos out there, some support, letting people know that hey, we're out here, we're still talking. This is
Mhm.
You don't have to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
You don't have to appear to have it all together. So I
Mhm.
think getting out more digital is probably the best way to advocate, especially with all of this technology going on with AI. It's just having that human touch out there is going to be extremely important. And yeah, we have to just be able to still speak. And yes, unfortunately, the the time that we're in, it doesn't seem to be accepting of
Yeah.
voices and of different opinions. But that doesn't stop us because you can't stop me from posting a video. Right.
Yeah.
You can't stop me from reaching out to someone,
Right.
and I can post 100 times a day, and who's going to stop me? Right.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
someone's going to hear it. Someone's going to reach it, and I can create an audience, and I can create a group that follows, that's ready to heal, that's ready to go to the next level and rebuild. So yeah, I think that digital is the right path.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I love both your points, even, as Mary said, I almost think like maybe we're back in Layla's time. My aunt, I mean, part of the organization was named after my ancestor, and it kind of helped our family establish that education was crucial. So, and I often wonder what that was like for her. I have no idea in that time period what it was like to be a woman of color,
Mhm.
just no clue. There's no way I can explain how that felt. Um, but obviously, I often think of times, in adversity, there's often times of strength, especially throughout history for women, people of color, women of color in general. Um, that we've not only survived, we've thrived at points in history, throughout history. So,
Mhm.
you know, as dark as it may be sometimes, I feel like there is always a voice out there that will kind of prevail, or voices in terms of just, groups of women and people fighting to be heard. Um,
Mhm.
so I think hopefully we we're able to do that, especially with, as Jennifer said, with digital aspects. So I'm gonna wrap up in terms of my last question. And what do you think is important for if someone was looking to get into advocacy work? Like what would be kind of that path of doing that? Like what would be maybe your suggestion of where they should look, how they should do that? Um, whether it's locally, like I said, or nationally, but like what would be, I want to say almost a calling if they had a calling, like, you know, what is that thing that makes somebody an advocate and how would they go about doing that?
Hmm.
I know I'm coming up with these questions.
They're good though. These are
Yeah,
good
great question.
questions.
The conversation inspired these.
Let me think. Mm, um, I don't want to say you have to have gone through it or know someone who's gone through it. You honestly just have to care
Mhm.
about the survivors and the circumstances surrounding why they are survivors. Because I don't even like to say victim anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you have to have some type of compassion for this population or this group of people. Like for me, I haven't experienced it.
Mhm.
But all I had to do, and this is just me, I don't know if other people do this too, but imagine
Yeah.
you have a mind, you have an imagination. Just imagine this happened to you, or here's one that's worse. If you're a mother
Yeah.
and you have daughters, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
That alone will make me jump right on the bandwagon and say, I need to advocate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need to advocate because what if one day something like this happens to do I know what to do?
Yeah.
Do I know what to say? I'm glad that I had that training that I had in order to be a volunteer because it taught me certain things. I'm glad about the crisis orientation that I received because it preps you. What if it hits close to home?
Yeah.
You have to know what to do. The first place, I would say, locally. What are your local resources and phone numbers and sites and uh organizations? What's local to you? Then if you want to expand out into national or an 800 number, a hotline, something that's toll free, then that's fine. But try to find local resources first. Um, and as far as what makes you have, in order to be an advocate of anything, even this specifically, but anything, there has to be that drive there, that drive that says, I'm not going to stay silent on this issue. I'm just not. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to, there's going to be a call to action. I'm going to do something. I'm not going to just, because most of the time things are just numbers. We have stats for things. Like
Yeah.
this number, this amount of women are assaulted every however many minutes or hours. We have numbers. But see, when you have a survivor that gets on camera and talks about what happened, now you have a face.
Yeah.
So you can't just look away now because it's not a number. It's a person.
Yeah.
So I would I like when, I mean, even when survivors don't speak, there's no blame towards them. That's a choice. But for the survivors that do speak, Just wanting them to realize you're humanizing this issue by speaking because it shatters the stigma. It forces people, oh, that happened. Oh, she's talking about it. Then you see the courage and the bravery in the individual for even talking about it. So I think I don't know. I probably answered more than the question you
No,
asked.
there was like so many points where I was like, oh, all of that. No, no. Jennifer, I know that you have to go. It's totally fine. I appreciate so much for you being here, Jennifer, and all of your advice and
Mhm.
words of wisdom that you've given. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Um, but to close out, Mary, yes, you hit so many on them. I've never heard someone say, like, imagine if it's, if someone can't imagine themselves, imagine if it's someone close to you, if you're a mom, your daughter,
Hmm.
or even reverse. I had someone else recently say that to me, like, what if I'm the daughter and it happened to my mom,
Oh, yes,
right? Or
yes.
my grandma,
Hmm. Hmm.
is we don't think about, a lot of times we have this vision of a survivor, and my organization was mainly started for college students in college for this issue, but a lot of times we get messages from people, 20 years past, 30 years past, this happened to my mom, this happened to my grandma.
Hmm.
And we don't really think about that, like what that looks like, and what
Yeah.
that survivor looks like,
Hmm.
because we all turn into raisins, we all have to age and go through life, but that pain, as you mentioned before, with resilience is still there. So,
Hmm.
um, what would you do if your grandmother said this happened, but it happened 50 years ago? So I think we're hearing more and
Hmm.
more cases of people saying, hey, this happened to me, or this happened to me by a famous person or so and so. But the
Hmm.
person
Hmm.
standing in front of you is now 70, but this happened when they were 16 or 20.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I think that changes sometimes our perception, because unfortunately we have an ideal of what a survivor is supposed to look like, which is ridiculous. Survivors look like people.
Yeah, right.
We sometimes imagine, well, this is the person and this is the scenario, versus um this could be anybody that maybe they just didn't get an opportunity to share, and it's
Hmm.
time. I think this recently happened with like Cesar Chavez, where survivors came out recently, and the women are in their like 80s. I think a woman was like 94 and she just admitted that this happened.
Well, there's stigma attached to that too. Like
Yeah.
when someone reports, people have a problem with that. Why did you wait till now?
Yeah.
Like, how do you control when I'm gonna say what happened to me? That's not your call, you
No,
know?
no. Or there wasn't maybe an avenue to do that. A lot of times
Correct.
people don't
Hmm.
realize like who the survivor is, but also who the person that did the, you know, uh, incident, trying not
Hmm.
to take it
Hmm.
down. Um, that person may have some kind of power, whether it's political, whether it's celebrity, whether it's, even a former advocate themselves of something,
Hmm.
that there may be no avenue for that woman to report,
Right.
even be believed. I think reporting is fairly simple.
Hmm.
Be believed is very different.
Yeah, is another story.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
most people don't. They kind of confuse the two, and I think that's a problem in our society. I hope will be fixed one day. I don't know if that's possible, but
Yeah.
understanding that reports are one thing, believing or even public opinion is not the same.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm gonna wrap up. Thank you so much, Mary,
You're
for
welcome.
your knowledge and being here and sharing your story as an advocate. Thank you, Jennifer, as well, again, for speaking. There are a few more videos of speakers who couldn't make today, but had a pre-recorded video. Those are being dropped on our YouTube channel with
Okay.
Leila Grace Foundation. I had to remember the actual handle. I don't remember. I didn't set this one up. But it is there. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, probably more active on Instagram as of right now on Leila Grace Foundation. And if you are a survivor and you want to actually share your story on our monthly blog, please go to the website, email us, and you will get a message back on how to do that. And you can apply to become a monthly blogger. And if you do not want to share your story publicly, you can also send us a message as well. And if you want to speak at colleges, we do sponsor speeches at colleges for any survivor. That is part of our mission at the organization. So if you want to do a talk,
Hmm.
at any school, as I did a long time ago, we've sponsored many students who were ready in their path and wanted to share their story, because no one can tell you no, and you have the right to share your experience.
I
Uh,
have a question, but should I wait till after we're done, like
yeah,
recording?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
I totally forgot that we are still recording. Like I said, this is casual. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, fine. Yeah, but thank you guys. Thank you everyone who have participated. Thank you everyone who bought tickets, as well as those who have donated. This is going to continue, so this is not a one and done. I hope to be doing this at least once a quarter. So if you want to participate in this in any way, just again send me a message, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, Leila Grace Foundation, or through the website, leilagrace.org. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mary, Jennifer, Dr. Krista, and for everyone else that I'm blanking on at the moment. You really appreciate it. And I always like to end things on a positive note. So I will end today with something that's been just in my brain, which is take care of yourself. I feel like a lot of times we don't think about survivors as kind of warriors. And no one ever told me to take care of myself during certain
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
And I kind of got burnt out during certain times of my life and realized I need to take care of myself. So I want everyone, whether you're a survivor or an advocate, to know that, especially when you're dealing with something very emotional and close to your heart, or just you're dealing with people and their energy, um, is coming in and out, and you're experiencing that, and that can be very tiresome, and
Mhm.
you can get burnt out, as any of us can. So my mission or my motto today is please delve into self-care and take care of yourself. And that does not mean get a facial. Facials are great. Take the time for yourself. You need to be alone, be alone.
Mhm.
But take care of your mind, your body, and your energy or soul, however you would love to address that. But thank you again. Thank you, everybody.